Hello, hello. Welcome back, you guys. Week 2 of the Master Your Money Pacesetters series. This is National Sales Director Leah Lachlan coming at you live on this very rainy Monday afternoon. And I'm recording early on Monday, so it's ready to go for you on Tuesday because I just found out the other week after I already had this booked that they're doing this ribbon cutting ceremony in the agri community that we're building our house in. We are building a house in the very first agri community in Ohio. It's called Oberlin Springs. You can check it out at oberlinsprings.com. It's pretty exciting. And so they're having a ribbon cutting ceremony, which is going to just be the celebration of that new community. That phase 1 is almost done. They're building phase 1 of 4, and it's being built on an active farm, and it's going to be like farm to table living, and it's going to be pretty cool stuff. So because we want to attend that ribbon cutting ceremony, I'm recording this early. Okay, so welcome back. Welcome to week 2. I spent this morning going through our Facebook group and was so encouraged, was literally moved to tears at some comments and some stories, and was just encouraged and inspired and motivated by you guys and what's happening in your life and how you're encouraging each other and supporting each other. I mean, it truly was this wonderful source of inspiration for me this morning to go through the comments on the group. Okay, so one thing I just posted, you guys, was an invitation to tell your story. Have you gone from a hopeless to a hopeful financial situation? Have you paid off a lot of debt? Have you had a lot of financial victories? Have you been on a journey for a while and have experienced wins along the way? If so, we want to hear your story just to be encouraged by it, encouraged and inspired. And for people who may be in more of a feeling of hopelessness right now, I think hearing and reading stories can help give that hope. Dave Ramsey's Money Makeover book, he has so many stories of people getting out of debt. And it's crazy, like crazy, hopeless situations, like massive amounts of debt, low income. I mean, you read it and you're like, how in the world will they ever get out of this? And they do. It's story after story after story of people paying off enormous amounts of debt and moving from a really struggling financial situation to a really bright and hopeful future. And so we want to hear your story. And if you are feeling hopeless about where you are, you guys, be encouraged that it's not forever. And you can, there is a way out. There is. Trust that and believe that there's a way out. There's a bright future ahead of you, and you can control your next steps to move on that path. Okay, so what is your next best small baby step in moving forward? I mean, it could just be reading another chapter in a book. You guys, it could be working through this workbook in this program, but continue to take steps forward. There is a way out. There really is. So be encouraged, my friends. Okay, so just a review of the 6-week challenge, which we launched last week. Remember, it's to track your Mary Kay sales using the 60/40 spreadsheet. So some questions that came up is, I'm already using something that works. I heard Ascend Live several times, which I actually got trained on that at Linda Tubin's boot camp like years ago. And at that point, and now seems to be a great program. So I just want to reiterate, if you're using something that works, like don't switch. Don't feel like you have to use the spreadsheet I trained on yesterday if you're already getting the same support from something else. Okay, so if it's Ascend Live or another program that you're already effectively tracking your 60/40 split, don't add something new. Okay, just track it in some way. You're going to track your spending in the following categories. And remember, we're having Money Mondays or Financial Fridays or one day a week where you're investing time, or maybe multiple days a week if you really are in a place you need to catch up and get organized, but at least one day a week where you're tracking your spending, going over some goals, reviewing some transactions, having a conversation with your husband or significant other. So I hope you've got that day set on your calendar for the rest of this month in May. And then you're going to be tracking your spending in May and June in every single category. And if you want to start in April, go for it. But the challenge was for May and June. And so right now, since we're still in April, you can use this time to get your tracking in place so that when it comes time to track, whether it's April, May, June, you've got something in place to track every category of spending. Okay, remember that was the practice I implemented after Pam Shaw told me to go get a massage, and I had an emotional come apart in the walk-in closet of my condo that we lived in at that time. And that's what I came home from my massage to do, was print every transaction. And I created this Excel spreadsheet that I've used every month since that time. Okay, so I will commit to not spending in the following category for May and June. So I've heard some of you have chosen your categories, which is encouraging. You're going to finish your book that you chose from our book list, or another book. Some of you have chosen another book that's not on the list. That's totally fine, just that you're reading something that's increasing your knowledge and skills with your money life. And then I will have a wealth management meeting with my spouse or parent or mentor or significant other in May and June to discuss our goals. So I want you to get that on your calendar and have a conversation with that person about when that's going to be and what that's going to look like. Okay, so remember, these things are going to make my heart sing. If you guys just do these things, it'll change your world. It'll rock your world when you implement these activities and create a habit out of these activities. Okay, so I wanted to review that really quick. Couple of questions that have come up in our Facebook group. I know when one or two people ask it, there's probably 100 other people who have the same question. They just didn't ask or post it. And so I want to address some of those questions. One thing I learned last year is that you can't tax, if you give a discount, you can't tax on the full retail value. I did not know that until last year. Apparently it's against the law, and you can only tax on the amount the retail amount that you charge. Okay, that's news to me. Was news to me last year, but I wanted to make sure that was clear. Non-recovered sales tax. So when you pay sales tax on a product but you don't recover it, like for giving a gift away, you track that on our spreadsheets that we trained on last week, and you can track on weekly accomplishments, and it just becomes a line item for your tax return. Okay, you need to be able to give your accountant that number of non-recovered sales tax. Personal use items are a business expense. So this came up. When you take something personal use, you want to keep track of it because it is, again, it's a business expense. It's a line item for your tax return. You list the amount of products that you and your family use. And so you want to keep track of that. I just have an ongoing sales ticket. In fact, when I pull a product from my inventory, I tear off the lid or the cap or whatever part of the box that says what it is, and then I put it in a little drawer over there, and all year I'm just throwing little tags from the box in the drawer. And then at the end of the year, my assistant goes through it and just adds it up on a sales ticket, and it has the total amount of product I use personally for myself and my family. And that's a line item on our tax return and the numbers that I give to my accountant. Now, how it relates to the 60-40 split spreadsheet is you would just need to know the retail value, because you don't want to take something off your shelf you're not replacing. So you would just want to give it a line on your Excel spreadsheet. But I don't write myself a check. I don't do that. I just make sure I'm replacing what I'm using personally, and I'm keeping track of the amount of products that I'm using. Okay. The minis, those are section 2. Those little minis, they're section 2, considered a business expense. That's what you use that 5% for. Remember, you've got 5% covering your shipping in your section 2 and the other 5% for other expenses going into another account. I wanted to answer that question. So, and again, you guys have freedom to make this work for you. I know everybody's brain works differently. Everyone likes to stay organized in different ways. And so take this information and look at it and think, how can I make this effectively work for me and my family, my business, and my life? It's not going to look like my picture. If you looked at 100 different national sales directors and how they stay organized in their money world, you'd see 100 different ways to do it. Kristen Sharp, I always use her as an example because she's mastered her money. She's on it with that topic. It's one of our, just as friends, we love talking about it, and we've had many conversations about just money and finances and how to manage it. And she's got like 12 different checking accounts for all kinds of different things. That would make me crazy. Okay, so I've got like 3 different ones, 3 or 4. And that's about all I can handle. she can handle more and has it more broken out and broken down. Okay, so that's an example of like we both found a way that works for us. Okay, so feel the freedom to take this information, make it work for you in your money world. All right. And the videos, you guys, I mean, Dave Ramsey's videos, so good. They're so good. So I hope you've invested the time and have blocked out the time to watch the ones that go along with your vouchers, and they're all in the pinned post. And there was some confusion about how many steps Dave Ramsey had. I think at one point he had 12, or at least I made that up in my mind that he had 12. And then last year it was 10 and now it's 7. So I think it's 7. I think that's the official number, is he has 7 baby steps. And so there's, his baby steps are broken down into short little videos. They're not very long, but it helps you get an idea of the steps. And then in his book, Total Money Makeover, he of course goes into depth on each of those steps. So watch the videos. They're so encouraging. I mean, you guys, the one where he is screaming run and playing the video of the gazelle being hunted by the cheetah. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, I just watched that for entertainment. I've probably seen it 10 times just because it's funny and inspirational, and is just such a visual for how to treat debt. Like, you run. And I love that he's on stage, like getting red-faced, screaming that at the audience with this cheetah gazelle video playing in the back. I mean, I can't get enough of it. And so watch the videos, you guys. They will bless you. And start following Dave Ramsey's YouTube channel, guys. He's always putting out good stuff. So though that catches us up on where we're at. So let's dig right into our content for this week. I'm going to start with 6 levels of financial health. I believe these come from, Ron Blue's Master Your Money. He goes over these. And so there's 6 different levels. I want you to identify which one you're at as I'm describing these. And the first one is struggling. So we're going to go from bottom to top here. Struggling is you're just in a place where you're in debt, and there doesn't seem like there's a way out, and you feel like you have little to no choices, and very little or nothing is saved, and you're just in a place of struggle. And like I said in the beginning, I pray, like, may anyone out there whose heart is in a place of hopelessness, may you experience hope today, and may you believe that there is a way out. And may you be willing to take the steps necessary to get out. Okay? And may God just provide for you a way out. May he give you hope today that there's a bright future ahead of you. Okay? So that's a place of struggle financially. The next level up is surviving. And so not quite struggling, but living paycheck to paycheck. Some months are better than others. Some months you can save, some months you can't. But there's really not a whole lot of money going towards building margin or your savings account. Little to no money being invested, and not a lot of clarity on any financial goals. Okay. 3 is stable. Stable is where there's really enough cash flow to cover your expenses. You've got some choices, maybe not a lot, but there are some choices that you have financially. You're able to put a little bit of money away, but the big difference between level 3 and the next level I'm going to talk about is that there's no clear short-term or long-term financial goals that you're intentionally working on. And so it may be a good place. You may be in a good place financially, but there's no like real specific goals that you've got that gazelle-like intensity that you're working towards. Whereas secure, the next level, the 4th level of financial health, is secure, where there's plenty to cover expenses and save. You've got plenty left over to be able to do that. You're starting to build a large margin, which gives you security. So you're saving and investing, and you've got some short-term and long-term financial goals. Okay. We were probably somewhere between 3 and 4 when Pam Shaw told me to go get a massage. We had enough to cover expenses. There was more than enough. There wasn't excess. But the thing that was missing when I really started on my financial journey was the clear goals. Remember that feeling of uncertainty that I had? And I sort of connected uncertainty with money and just kind of lived with that ongoing uncertainty. That's where I was at. And the short-term and long-term financial goals that's one thing that helped to clear away that uncertainty. Okay. And so then 5 is surplus. In the surplus level, you have more than enough. You actually are in a place where you start asking, how much do I really need? Like there's so much that you're starting to feel a calling, a desire, maybe a conviction to give it away. There's really such a extra amount in your life, and you're trying to discern what lifestyle standards that you want to have, and trying to discern what's too much as far as a lifestyle goes. And you start to really actively give, and can really more actively start giving money away because there's such a surplus. And then the 6th level is called significance. And that level, there is such a surplus that you can really start building a legacy and start making a contribution to the lives of others, to charity, to family. Money has left the place of it being just about you and your bills and the stuff you can have and the stuff you can buy. Like you have so left that place that it truly becomes about what you can create for other people and the legacy that you can leave. And I do want to say that, and this is according to Ron Blue, not just my opinion, that you don't get to that level without a whole heck of a lot of hard work. Unless you inherit some money. I know that's a reality for some of you. Or win the lottery. So unless you just get that extra inheritance, or has anyone won the lottery? Probably not. To get here, most people work a long time for a lot of years with a lot of hard work, a lot of intentional living, a lot of saving, a lot of giving. Dave Ramsey says a lot. He says you get rich very, very, very slowly. And rich being defined as like your net worth, not necessarily your income. You can make $1 million in a year, but if you spend $1 million in one, you're living paycheck to paycheck. And you would be in a surviving, that level 2 of 6 levels of financial health. You would be in that surviving level. And if you have a lot of debt, you may even be struggling. Okay, so being rich is a net worth thing, not just an income, the income that you're bringing in, and not just an accumulation of stuff. You can have a lot of stuff and be totally broke. And so Dave says you get rich very, very slowly. And so moving to this level of significance, it takes some time and a lot of hard work and a lot of focus and a lot of creating these habits that we're talking about in here. But you absolutely can move from level 1 to level 6. You can move from struggling to creating significance. And I also want to say, you don't even have to make a super high income to create that significance. You can make a low to average income, and with good choices and intention and good money habits, you can create that surplus without having to make a really high income. And I'm going to talk about ways to do that later on. Also, you don't have to wait to start giving until you're at higher levels. And we're going to talk about giving and tithing later on in this hangout. And you can start giving at the lowest level. And so we'll talk about that in just a minute. And because of this country that we live in and the opportunities that we have, and then hello, you're in Mary Kay. That's one of the most incredible opportunities to come in and start a business and start with nothing. And you have this way, you have this vehicle and this avenue to create wealth for your family. And you can do that faster and more significantly when you own your own business, because you define it. You define your income. You define how quickly you make money. You decide that. Whereas when you work for someone else, you it's up to them to decide that when you get a raise, how much income that they're willing to offer you. But in Mary Kay, you define that for yourself. And so so it's possible to move up to higher levels, and in Mary Kay to do it faster than maybe you could at another job. So where are you at on the 6 levels? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just take an honest assessment of where you're at financially, and identify it honestly. Because remember, we've got to start with awareness. We got to move out of denial. We got to start seeing things black and white and addressing this and not hiding under a rock when it comes to our financial worlds. And so what level are you at? And what would it take to move up a level or 2? What's your time frame? When do you want to move from maybe a place of surviving to being stable, and then moving from stable to being secure? What's that ideal time frame, and what would some of the choices and steps look like? Okay, you're already on a good path if you're a part of this program. So let's talk about investment in debt as it relates to your Mary Kay business. This is something I wanted to touch on last week that we ran out of time with. And so let's touch on this. Since we're all in Mary Kay, it's important to understand these things. I know we have anywhere from brand new consultants who just started Mary Kay within the last month, all the way up to top sales directors and executive sales directors who are very seasoned in this business. So we have all levels of the career path that are a part of this program. And so going over this information is kind of twofold. I want to teach new consultants the concepts of investing in your Mary Kay business and how we view debt in Mary Kay as far as investing in inventory goes. And hopefully for those of you who already understand that piece of it and you've grasped that piece of our business, I want to give you words and ideas and concepts that you can then teach your team. And when you have new consultants start and you are their leader, it's important to be equipped with this kind of education to support them in understanding this and them in having a healthy financial world in their Mary Kay business. Okay, so it's important for you to understand it yourself. And then eventually you're going to be passing it on to others and teaching other people some of these concepts. So here's my quick story of making my first investment in my business. My recruiter, Tina France, recruited me, and she started, I don't know, a few months before I did. And she walked me through the layering process. It was actually masterful what she did to layer me. And I needed all of the layers. Like that recruiting is a layering process worksheet. That's a team building tool that you can use. I needed all of those layers and multiple layers and lots of information. And had she not layered me the way that she did, I don't think I ever would have gotten started. And so in the middle of the layering process, she makes an inventory decision because she was still fairly new at her business. And she told me one day, we were at a church gathering, that she invested $600 to start her Mary Kay business to get inventory. And, you know, for those of you who know, that's the lowest package that you get bonuses with. It's called a qualified order. It's not even a star level. And it could probably fit in a shoebox. Like I could sit down right now and place $1,000 wholesale order just for myself and my family, just to put it in perspective of the small amount of product that really is. And so she started with 600, and you guys, that sounded like $1 million to me at that time. I'm like, you what? I'm like, that's crazy. And I even had the thought, I don't think I verbalized this to her, but I had the thought of like, well, if I ever do this, because it was still a question to me at that time. I'm like, well, I'm kind of interested, but probably not. I was still in the process of deciding whether I wanted to do Mary Kay. And I had the thought of like, well, if I ever do it, I'm not doing what she did. Like she just bought $600 in lipstick. That was my opinion of it, or that was my perception of it. She just bought $600 in makeup. which of course, that's not what she did, but to me, that's what it sounded like. And that $600 sounded like $1 million to me. And so for that reason, you guys, for those of you who are recruiting and sharing the business opportunity, it is so important to be just transparent and so upfront that there's an inventory decision to make when they start their business. I don't let anyone order a starter kit without letting them know before they say yes to the starter kit that there's an inventory decision that they're going to make after they get their starter kit. There's really two decisions when you start a Mary Kay business. One is a $100 decision. Do you want to start a Mary Kay business? And the second one is an inventory decision. And although inventory isn't mandatory, it is highly, highly encouraged because of the customer service that you can offer to your customers and because of the time that it saves you. But it's up to you with how you want to run your business. We've got packages anywhere from a couple hundred to a couple thousand, and everywhere in between. And it's up to you as to how you want to invest in your business. And so once you order your starter kit, we give you all the information you could possibly need to make a decision, and we support you in making that decision. And so that's an example of the conversation I'm having with someone who's deciding whether or not she wants to start a Mary Kay business. So she knows that there's an inventory decision. She knows that it's important. She knows she's going to get a lot of information, and she knows that there's a decision to be made. The only thing I don't do, you guys, that I truly think is a pitfall in team building is I don't talk about amounts, not because I want to withhold information from her or not have transparency. No, in fact, the opposite. I want her to know. I want her to be super clear that the next conversation we're going to have is about how you want to run your business and invest in it. And so you want to be super clear about that. But mentioning amounts, I think, is not effective until people are educated. Okay, so when Tina told me she got $600, that sounded like $1 million to me. You guys, that could have really been enough to turn me off of the business opportunity. That could have been enough for me to say, if that's one of the decisions I have to make or what they're going to ask me to do, I don't want to do that. Now, I went on to order 2,400 after I was educated on how the business works. Then I made a decision to invest in 2,400. I would have done 3,000. A Diamond Star level, had my credit card at that time, had more availability. I had just happened to get a 0% card. I just had this 0% card sitting in my wallet, had never used it, just recently got it. I don't even know why. And that's what I used to invest in it. And it just didn't have the space for a Diamond Star inventory. So I got 2,400. Okay. But do you see how hearing her $600 order, it's sounding like $1 million to me, making the decision mentally, I would never do that if I did Mary Kay. But then, I don't know, a few weeks later, put a $2,400 order on a 0% card because of the additional information and education I needed to make that decision. I mean, I went from I'm not getting inventory to listening to Pam Shaw's Next Step CD to wishing I had more room in my credit card so I could get 3,000. Because I heard how the business works. I'm like, oh, that's how the business works? Yeah, of course you need inventory. Why would I try to do this without any products? Not that it's impossible to be successful. If you can't, if you just don't have the option to invest in inventory. I'm sure there's a lot of you on here that are watching this that for whatever reason couldn't or decided not to get inventory. You can still absolutely be successful. But I will just strongly say that having inventory accelerates your success, helps you to feel like you're in business, builds a more loyal customer base. You're going to sell more. I mean, just hands down, you are going to sell more than you do when you don't have it on hand. And it's going to save you a whole heck of a lot of time when you've got inventory on hand. Okay. And so I did invest on a 0% credit card. I do know and understand Dave Ramsey's views on credit cards. He's pretty much a zero tolerance when it comes to credit cards. And so I think that's a little extreme. I love Dave. I follow him. I believe in what he's doing. I think it's a little bit extreme not to have a credit card, but I also understand what his mission is. It's to get people out of debt. And I understand that he's got to take that extreme viewpoint that credit cards are not an option. And for a lot of people, they probably aren't. If you maybe have a history of not being able to use them responsibly, then they're probably not an option. But I have I have credit cards. Pretty much always have it since I got that very first one in college. Remember, I was like sweating and my heart was pounding when I used it for the first time, went straight home, wrote a check and sent it off to the bank. I've had credit cards ever since that time, but have never been in credit card debt. And so you can absolutely have credit cards and use them responsibly. In fact, I don't remember the last time I paid for a plane ticket because of the rewards and the miles that I get on my credit cards. So I really like that benefit and that feature. And yeah, so I'm aware that Dave says not to use them, but I think you can learn to use them responsibly. Okay. And there are 5 different types of debt. Not all debt is the same. And so let me go over the 5 different types. One is credit card debt, which is also consumer debt, but it's consumer debt that goes on a credit card. 2 is consumer debt, like a car loan, or I know sometimes people want to buy furniture and they'll finance it at the furniture store, or finance certain, I don't know, you can finance all kinds of things, even vacations. You can get a loan to take a vacation. So that would be consumer debt that's a loan versus a credit card. Here's the deception of consumer debt, is that it feels like it raises our standard of living when we can make these purchases. Cars, furniture, homes, vacations, clothes, stuff, technology stuff, toys. It feels like it raises our standard of living because we have all these like glittery fun things in our life all of a sudden, and these nice things. But in reality, when you spend money on that you don't have, okay, so on a credit card that you can't pay off that next month, or a consumer loan that you're going to make payments on for a while, when you're spending money you don't have, you are lowering your standard of living. Even though it looks like you've increased your standard of living, and you can maybe post some really awesome posts on Facebook and social media about your vacations or your cars or your homes or whatever, you've lowered your standard of living because every dollar spent on consumption is gone forever, while every dollar invested creates more in the future. Like whatever you spend on stuff to consume, like you never get it back. Even if you end up selling the car, you never sell it for what it's worth, or sometimes even what you owe. Even if you sell the clothes or sell whatever, you're not getting the money, the high dollar back that you paid for it. Okay, so it's gone forever. Whereas for every dollar you invest and save, that money is working for you, and that money is growing and creating more of a surplus in the future. So for every dollar you invest, you're actually increasing your standard of living in the long run, even if it means you have to say no to things that would make it appear that you have a certain standard of living. Okay? So remember that. Like, isn't that a sobering thought? When we buy these things or purchase these things, it's lowering our standard of living, even though it looks really pretty on the outside. A helpful thought that I hope helps you when it comes to stuff is that everything you buy is just pre-trash. I learned this from Ron Blue's Master Your Money. He calls stuff pre-trash. And think about it, you guys. I mean, how many times have you gone through your closet or your house and filled up bags and boxes for Goodwill or for a garage sale, or things you've just thrown away, especially things for your kids? Oh my gosh. I don't buy them anything because it is trashed like the next day. Are you kidding me? And so when you start viewing things like that, like this is just this thing, because it looks so pretty at the store, you know? And like you're looking at it and you want it, you just got to look at it and think, someday I'm going to throw this away. Like, or someday this is going to break, or someday this is going to be clutter in my house that I'm going to want to get rid of and send it to Goodwill. Okay, when you pre-think ahead like that, it decreases the value, and all of a sudden that pretty stuff at the store doesn't look as attractive. Okay, so I hope that helps for all you shoppers out there. Okay, so we have got credit card debt, we've got consumer debt, and then we've got your mortgage. Your mortgage is not quite the investment that it used to be, because home values are a little more unstable than they used to be. Mortgage used to be, quite the awesome investment, but it's not as much anymore. And a lot of people in this country are house poor. And so it could be a really great investment, but not quite what it used to be. And then there's debt from investments, and then there's business debt. And so the last three, mortgage to buy a home, investments into businesses, companies, and then any kind of business investments that you make, which inventory would fall into that category, those can be used appropriately. Whereas the first two, credit card and consumer debt, you want to avoid at all cost. Like, they're never appropriate. They never make sense. If you don't have the cash to buy some of those things, you don't get it. Mortgage, investment, and business debt and investing are different, and can, in the long run, support you in creating income, creating a surplus, and creating wealth. And so that's what inventory is. You guys, it is not actually debt in the way we often view it, like credit card debt, consumer debt. It's an investment that you make 100%, you get 100% return on what you're investing. Like, it is a tool, it's a vehicle, it's a catalyst for you to create an income and for you to make money with your Mary Kay business. And so let me continue on with my story of making that $2,400 investment. So it went on a 0% card. It was 0% for 6 months. Cliff was pretty indifferent. I don't think he was 100% comfortable with it, but he trusted me. He didn't trust Mary Kay. He wasn't sold out on Mary Kay. He didn't know if this would work out, but he trusted me to make a decision. And he trusted me enough that if I felt like it was important, he was okay with it. But sort of made the comment of like, well, it better not be here in 6 months. Like, you better take care of it, sister, because I don't want to see it on that card in 6 months. And so that was one of my first goals, you guys, was just to pay off my card. I had the thought often, I'm like, well, if all I ever do in Mary Kay is pay off this investment, I'm good. I'm happy. Like, that's a win. That was a win for me initially. So my first 5 months, 4 to 5 months of business, you guys, I held power starts. I started off with like 1-2 parties a week and kind of built up to 3 over that time frame. And so I was very active in my business, held power starts, 30 faces in 30 days, sometimes a little bit more than that. Was consistently holding parties, and really only had 3 goals that I started the business with. That was to make extra money. At that time, I was waiting tables at Mama DeSalvo's in Kettering, Ohio, where I grew up. And after school, Cliff would pick me up, because remember, we only had 1 car. He would pick me up from school, drop me off at the restaurant. And I'd often work till 11 p.m. or midnight. He would pick me up from the restaurant, bring me home, and I'd wake up and do it all again. So I work, from dawn to dusk. I was working. And I saw Mary Kay as a way to at least get rid of that waitressing job, but I didn't want to give up that cash, because it was good cash at that time. And so I saw it as a way to make extra money, but really more motivating to me was the challenge of it. Like, curiosity just got the best of me. I'm like, I just got to see if this is going to work. I don't think it's going to, and I don't really believe in this whole Mary Kay thing, but I just got to see if it's going to work. And so I just saw it as like this challenge that I just had to try it. That was a motivating part of starting my Mary Kay business. And then thirdly, is I wanted to prove that it didn't work. I know it's an odd reason to start a business opportunity, but I was just committed to trusting the process and doing what my director told me to do, and like doing all those new consultant things. Like, I did my power start, my pearls of sharing. I went to the meetings. Like, I just trusted the process. I was obedient to the process. My director said jump. I said how high. I mean, that's how I rolled in my first few months with Mary Kay. And I wanted to, in the back of my mind, just prove, if to no one else, at least prove to myself that it didn't really work, because I was a cynic and a skeptic at that time. I didn't believe that you could be as successful as they were saying you could be. They being, I don't know, my recruiter, my director, national sales directors that I would hear speak. I'm like, there's no way somebody normal like me could really do this the way they say that you can do it. And so those were my goals for those first 4 to 5 months. And slowly but surely, I achieved them. I checked those goals off the list. I saw that you could make extra money. That part was pretty obvious and easy to see from almost from day one in Mary Kay. So I saw that. It was a fun challenge. And I liked that about Mary Kay. I really enjoyed the challenge as much as it was a massive step out of my comfort zone. Like I sort of just liked the challenge of it. And I could tell almost immediately that I was building my confidence. And that was something that was like, whoa, I didn't expect this. And I didn't expect it that fast. I'm like, I feel more confident. I feel more sure of myself. I can see myself growing. And that's sort of addictive. Like when you can see yourself growing and like transforming and becoming better, like that was really rewarding and satisfying to me in the beginning. And then eventually I sort of let go of the idea of proving it wrong because I could just see that it could work. And I could see that normal people were being successful. And I could see that it was a legitimate business opportunity. And if you're willing to work hard, it could work for you. Okay, so I had sort of checked my 3 goals off the list within those first few months. And at that time, almost considered pulling back from holding parties, not because anything was going wrong. In fact, guys, everything was going right. I had achieved my goals. I was doing really well with my business. I was having fun. I liked it. I liked the whole Mary Kay mission and idea, but I almost took a step back because I had no vision beyond that. Okay, like, oh my goodness, the power of a vision, the power of a goal. I almost stepped back. And when I say step back, I never intended to quit. I just wasn't sure if I wanted to keep holding that many parties. I had some other things going on in life and didn't know if I should shift my focus. And yeah, everything was going right, but had no bigger vision. Thank God, Tina talked me into going to seminar. I went to seminar, and that's where the bigger vision, the bigger picture was born. And the rest is history from there. Once I had that bigger picture, I chose to be all in, both hands, both feet, heart over the line for that goal. And that's what I went home and did. I went home and decided I was going to be a national sales director and continued to hold 3 parties a week until it happened. And so, kind of let's bring it back to the point. There were many times in those first 4 to 5 months that I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm so busy. I've got a lot going on. I was a first-year teacher. I was working 50 to 60 hours a week. I volunteered in these after-school programs. I came early. I stayed late because I was trying to get my classroom set up and trying to figure out this teacher thing. And I wanted to do well with it and just wanted to learn to be a good teacher. There was a long period that I never considered leaving the teaching career. I thought I'd have a lifelong career with teaching. And so there's many times I'm like, I don't have time for this. I don't want the hassle. This just feels like a hassle. I don't have to do this. I don't have to go to the meeting. Do I have to go to the meeting again? So there's many moments when I questioned why I was doing it. And so what kept me in motion for those 4 to 5 months where I had no bigger vision? The credit card. I had to pay off the freaking credit card. You guys, I'm serious. That's what kept me in the game. It's what kept me in the zone. I had to pay off that darn credit card. So I knew I had to keep holding parties because I didn't want it to come out of our personal checking. Oh, no, 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 no. It was going to be paid for with my Mary Kay money. And I had to honor that commitment I made. And so in a season where there was no bigger vision, and when I really questioned whether I wanted to continue on and when I really questioned if I wanted to hassle with this and invest time in it, it was the credit card investment that I had made that kept me in the game. And I needed that positive pressure. And my guess is that you would do well with that positive pressure too. And keep you in the game, maybe in seasons when your clarity isn't really strong. Okay, so I share that with you to give you words and education to share with your team, but also for those of you who are new, just to give you some perspective on the value of making an investment and kind of putting something on the line. Like you've got some skin in the game. If I didn't have any skin in the game, why book another party? I mean, really, why do it? you sort of have this procrastination mindset of like, oh, I'll do it next month. I don't need to do it this month. But I had a sense of urgency. That 0% card was running out in 6 months, and then interest kicked in. So I had a deadline and a clear goal. And that was wildly beneficial to me at the beginning. And for those of you who hesitate to maybe bring team members in with inventory because you're worried that, they're spending too much money, or, that they won't pay it off, or, we have all these hesitations of why we don't bring people in with inventory. And so I hope my story helps you put it into perspective that your new recruit, she probably needs that positive pressure, and it's going to serve her well. Okay, so if you still have an inventory investment that you've made on a credit card, or that you're paying somebody back for, that you took out a loan for, I want to encourage you to pay on it weekly. That's what I did. Every Sunday night, I would log into my Mary Kay credit card online, and I would pay a little portion of it every single week. And I knew exactly, it was written in my calendar, my month at a glance calendar, exactly how much I needed to pay each week to have it paid off by the 0% deadline. So forget the monthly payment, you guys. Forget the minimum. Like, oh my goodness, that's a fast way to get yourself in big trouble. Pay it weekly and figure out how much you need to pay weekly. And so I knew exactly how much I needed to sell every week so that I could make that payment. And when you have that much clarity on how much you need to sell, man, you're motivated to book a party because you know how that's what's going to create the sales that you need. Okay. Okay. Okay, so here's some thoughts I had that some of you may have had. Like, wait a minute, I got in this to make money, not to spend money. I had that thought as I was making an inventory decision. Even though inventory totally made sense to me, I had the thought of like, wait a minute, I got in this to make money, not to get a credit card and have $3,000 on it to pay off. So it definitely had that thought, you guys, but as I got educated about the business, I knew that it was an investment, and a worthy investment, and a way to create an income. It very quickly created enough income that we had enough surplus that we were saving more. We paid off my student loans early. We had more choices. We had more options because of my Mary Kay business, because I made an investment and it generated more income faster because I had the product to sell. Okay, so I know you might have the thought like, wait a minute, I got in this to make money. But when you build a business, it's not even though you can make money fast in Mary Kay, like there's nothing about this business that's a get rich quick scheme. It's a make an investment and work hard, and it could lead to financial prosperity, but not without the investment and a lot of hard work. And also something I say to new consultants is you can't even think about quitting, you guys, until you've been in this for a year. Like if you've been in less than a year, like you just got to give it enough time. These things can take some time to build. The average, I Googled some of these numbers. The average cost of starting a business in America is $30,000. And it takes, on average, 2 to 3 years to make a profit. And this is not Mary Kay numbers. This is just starting a business in America. It's going to cost you 30 grand, and it's going to take 2 to 3 years to make a profit. You guys, I think we got a good deal. That 30 grand makes a star inventory look like pathetic. I think a good investment for a new consultant is $2,000 to $4,000. That's pennies compared to what it costs to start some businesses or buy some franchises. And you can start making money from day one in Mary Kay. You don't have to wait 2 to 3 years to start making a profit. Okay, so you just can't quit till you give it like a good shot, you guys. You gotta like give it something to get something out of it. And directors, that is a conversation I have with new consultants, and I like to set up that expectation on the front end that's like, give me a year, give me at least a year before you even think about, looking into other opportunities. Like you got to give it enough time. I hear some consultants say like they just want to get rid of all their inventory. Like, oh, I've got all this inventory. I just want to get rid of it all. And if you mean you want to sell it to make a profit, that's great. But if you mean to like just move out your inventory because you're uncomfortable with it sitting all there, like I just want to address that thought. That would be like Walmart saying, we want our shelves to be bare before we have any delivery trucks order products again. That'd be like Kroger saying, let's sell out of all of our food and then we'll reorder and get more food on the shelf. Or let's wait till people come in and hear what products they actually want and then we'll order them. Okay, so we are in a retail business. And when you have the product you sell, you make more money and you build a more successful business. Just like any other retail establishment, Mary Kay is the same way. And so wanting to just get rid of all your inventory just because you're uncomfortable with it sitting there, I just want to invite you to reframe that thought and think of how could you build it so that you're only reordering once a month. And so you give the best customer service because your customers stick with the girl who's got the products. And if it's not you, it's going to be somebody else. It's going to be your sister down the street who's selling and has an inventory in her basement that they can come pick stuff up when they need it. Okay, people want to be serviced by a consultant who's got products. And so getting rid of all your inventory is not beneficial to the longevity and success of your business. It's so important to understand that Mary Kay is a business. And I think that's where a common pitfall for women is we get all like emotionally involved. And that's okay. It's okay to have emotions about your business. But sometimes we just got to look at it black and white. And like, this is a business. Therefore, you treat it like a business. Therefore, you make an investment. Therefore, you continue to take part of your profits to continue to build the business. And you take part of your profits to cover your business expenses instead of embezzling from your own business. Okay, you treat it like a business. It will pay you like a business. You treat it like a hobby or this little side thing. It'll pay you like a hobby. And usually hobbies cost money. All right, it's all in how you treat it and how you invest in it. Okay, so let's move on from there. I want to talk about having a plan. Let me make sure I covered everything I wanted to cover. Yeah, I think I did. Okay, so we're about to get nitty-gritty here, my friends. And we're going to talk about a plan. It would be really helpful to have a calculator and maybe even a blank piece of paper because I'm just going to like do some number crunching. I know sometimes this is hard to follow if you're just listening or if sometimes numbers just kind of go in one ear out and out the other. But I want to go through these plans to give you an example of how to have a plan and hopefully encourage you that these big lofty goals that might seem a little out of reach are not actually out of reach. They are close. They're close at hand. You just may need a more effective plan and you need to track it. I'm gonna say this a couple times throughout. Oh, I lost my place. Okay, I'm gonna say this a couple times because I really want you to get it. I'm gonna go through a plan of paying off your inventory and building up your inventory to a full level inventory. And sometimes consultants and directors in Mary Kay don't have these things, you know, full inventories or investments paid off or extra fund money that you want out of your business. Sometimes people don't have these things, not because they're that hard to achieve. People don't have these things because they don't plan to have these things. Okay, I know it's a simple statement, but it's profound because any goal that you have in Mary Kay is within your reach when you create a plan of execution. We've got to bridge that gap between where you are and what you want. We've got to bridge that with a lot of execution and activity and small baby steps in between. Sometimes we are here and we want to be here, and we just hope if we want it bad enough, it'll get us there eventually. But no, we need to fill in the gap with execution, activity, small baby steps, and a clear plan. That's what Dave Ramsey gives people. He gives people a clear plan and small little steps to execute and small little wins along the way. That's why it works, because he gets people from here to here because they know the steps to take. Okay, and that's what I hope to give you with these examples, is to get you from here to here with just little small steps and some intention and tracking. You can get there. you can get there, but have you planned to get there yet? Okay, let's plan to get there. And so sales directors, let me speak to you for just a minute. This is something I would often go through with my consultants on a maybe monthly or quarterly rotation. We would touch on just this number crunching and setting money goals and sales goals, or pay off inventory goals, or build your full store goals. Of course, it's unique to every person in your unit because everybody's got their own personal set of goals. But this was common training that I would do to support people in always having a plan. And so the first example I'm going to go over is paying off inventory investment. Let's say you have $1,000 on a credit card, and you've got to pay that off to pay off your full investment that you made in your Mary Kay business. And so let's figure out how to do that. And let's say you want to pay it off in 90 days. And I think that's the first important step, is identify a time frame. Whether or not you hit it is not the issue. So some people hesitate to put a time frame on something out of fear of like, well, what if I don't hit it? Oh, well, just go for it the next month. Okay, just extend the deadline. Okay, so this is flexible here. But to not set a deadline doesn't benefit you in any way. Okay, so we want to set a deadline. We're going to pay off $1,000 on a credit card in the next 90 days. So by August 1st, that gives you May, June, and July. Those 3 months that by August 1st, that credit card is at zero. And so you're going to pay on it weekly. Remember, we're done with monthly payments. We're done with minimum payments. We pay weekly on this credit card. So let's take $1,000 divided by 13 weeks that you're going to have in May, June, and July. That's $77 a week that you would need to pay on that card. Isn't that encouraging? I love taking a big number and breaking it down into a small, achievable, bite-sized little number. So you need to pay $77 a week out of your Mary Kay checking onto your Mary Kay credit card to have that at zero balance by August 1st. So you can't just sell $77 a week to achieve that goal, because there's other things you need to do with that money as well. The $77 you need to pay, that would need to be at least that 40% left over. Okay, do you remember that column on the 60-40 split, like that leftover amount after it took everything else out, your reorder, your expenses, you've got what's left over. 77 has to be that 40% left over so that you can still do the other things you need to do with the money. So to do that, for 77 to be the 40% left over, you would actually need to sell $192 retail per week. 50% of that would be a $96 wholesale order. 10% would be $19. So you're setting aside that $19 to cover your expenses. And then 40% would be $77. And that gets to go on your credit card to pay it down. Now, if you want and or need to make a profit, you would need to sell more to be able to do that. But the bare minimum would be $192 retail per week for 13 weeks. And you would achieve this goal. And then if you need, let's say you need to make an extra whatever per week, whatever more you need extra on top of that, you would just add that to your total retail sales goal so that you could pull out that extra to pay bills or to do other things with, okay? So how many parties do you need to hold to sell $192 retail? It depends on the consultant or director. Some people do that in reorders alone. Okay, so this is not a high amount of retail, but it depends on your average sales. But for most people, 1, maybe 2, if you're still working on skills and mastering the skincare party procedure, 1 to 2 is going to guarantee it for most people. 1 to 2 parties a week. It's a very part-time work in Mary Kay that's going to take you anywhere from 5 to 10 hours a week, and you would be achieving this goal. Okay, so I hope you followed that. You've got your total amount you want to pay off by your time frame, the weeks you want to pay it off in. That gives you that amount that you need, and then you just do the 60-40 split with that, using that number. And then ideally you're ending with identifying how many parties you need to hold per week. And then let's take it a step further, because you would need to take it a step further. If you want to hold 1 to 2 parties a week, you need to have 2 to 4 booked, because half of what you book is going to hold, the other half is going to cancel or reschedule. And so you need to book 2 to 4 parties a week. So if you need to book 2 to 4 parties a week, when can you block out that time to get 2 to 4 parties a week booked? Maybe twice a week you book for an hour or 2. That would probably cover it for most people. All right. All right, let's go through another quick example here. How much, I love these like off the shoulder shirts, but like sometimes some of them just don't stay down very well. It's really annoying. So let's say that you have 2,000, you want to build your inventory. Okay, so you're in a place where you've paid off that initial investment, and you want to build to a full inventory. So you're only having to reorder once a month, and you've got everything for your people. Okay, so let's say you have about 2,000 wholesale, and you want to build to a full store. That would be about 2,000 wholesale more, give or take. And just so you know, a full store is, for a new consultant, 3,600 wholesale to maybe 5,000. And I give a range because it just depends on how many people you know, how many friends and family are supporting you initially. It just depends on that. As you build your business, your full store inventory is going to grow. As a top director, when I was in the field the most and had a really strong reordering customer base, my full store was over 10,000 wholesale, because that's what I needed to effectively run my business. And that's how much product I was moving. Okay, so 3,600 would not have come close to cutting it for me at that stage and level of my business, but that was enough in the beginning. Okay, so your full store is going to grow as your business grows. And that's a good thing, because it just means that you're selling more. But I would say around 4,000, let's just use that nice even number of 4,000 being a full inventory for a newer consultant. Let's say you want to do it from now into the new year. That's about 8 months from now. So let's take 2,000 divided by 8 months. That would be an additional 250 wholesale per month on top of just your reorder from your sales. Okay, so you're just going to reorder what you sell, but remember, you're trying to grow your inventory. So you're doing another 250 wholesale, so that by the new year, you've grown from 2,000 wholesale inventory to a 4,000 wholesale inventory. Okay, so that 250 would need to be at least that leftover amount. Okay, the 40% column of what's left over, 250 would at least, a bare minimum, need to be in that column. And so you would need to sell 625 retail per month to do that. Half of that you would reorder, so that's $312.50 for your wholesale order. 10% for your expenses is $62.50. And then you've got the 40% left over of 250. And then, of course, if you need to do more with that money than just build your inventory, you would need to sell more, depending on what that goal is. And so you would reorder half of what you sold. The $312.50 is half of what you sold, plus that extra $250. So that would be what? $562.50 wholesale. That would be your wholesale amount. Okay, so let's just recap that, because I want it to be super clear. I know sometimes it's hard to follow numbers. So if you had 2,000 wholesale, by the new year you want to have 4,000. If for 8 months in a row you can order 250 more wholesale per month than just what you sold, you're going to get to that $4,000 level by the end of the year. And to do that, you would need to at least sell 625 retail, so you can do everything that you need to do each week. Which, if you break that down, let's break the 625 retail down for the month. Let's break it down by the week, and that's $156 retail per week, which for most people, it's going to be one party a week. Would probably bring in more than that. And I hope you're encouraged and see that by breaking down big numbers into small numbers, that just with some planning, some focus, some intention, you can do anything you want with your Mary Kay business. I mean, you could kill it financially with your Mary Kay business when you have a plan of execution. And so every consultant and director that's listening to this hangout right now should have some sort of similar plan and goal to this, whether it's paying off your inventory, building your inventory, or personal financial goals that you have. Like, you should have a super crystal clear plan. If I want to do this with my money, that means I need to do this, 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 and this to get to here. So again, people don't have these things not because they're that hard to achieve. People don't have these things because they don't plan to have these things. Okay? There is power in a plan, my friend. Lots of power. Okay, moving on to the next topic. I feel like we need like a halftime break because we're kind of switching gears here and moving into some other, maybe I guess more heavy topics. So let's get a drink of water. Okay. I'm going to just cover what I am titling, kind of a big title for the following maybe 8 or 10 topics. It's just like basic money concepts, like ways to think about money. So now we're kind of digging into more of the mindset and the heart set of how you view money, your belief behind it, your emotional connection to it. And some of these are going to be you're really going to resonate with you, and it's going to help you to have maybe some aha moments, and some of them won't. Some of them you've probably already mastered. Some of them you've never even thought about. And so let's just dig into these. And let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pretty much 7, like 7 major thoughts here that I want to share that are basic money concepts. And I want you to like maybe star or highlight the one that really like stands out to you as the one that you want to take action on, or maybe come to a new level of awareness, or maybe process through with your spouse or significant other. Okay. And these are just things I have learned along the journey, and things that I've really learned and what's the word? Just absorbed from books that I've read. Okay. Number 1, either you control your money or your money controls you. Money is an excellent slave, but a horrible master. And so stewardship is the use of God-given resources for the accomplishment of God-given goals. And it's not just your money. I know we're talking about money here, but this stewardship also involves time and energy and the talent God's given you, and treasure and truth and relationships and people God has given you in your life. Stewardship involves everything we've been given, not just money. And it involves your gifts of leadership, or your gift of encouragement, or your gift of wisdom. So stewardship involves all of that. And so how are you stewarding what God has given you? Okay, it's using your God-given resources for the accomplishment of God-given goals. And so money falls into that category. But just like we can be wasteful with our money, we can also be wasteful with our time and our talents and our gifts. And a beautiful thing is, once you start stewarding one area of your life really well, it's amazing how that starts to impact and overflow into excellent stewardship of other areas. So you guys, as we start to steward our money well, this is going to impact your gifts. This is going to impact your talents. This is going to impact your relationships. It's going to impact your marriage. It's going to impact your future. Because money is that one thing. I mean, time and money, they touch everything that we do. And if we can steward time and money well, man, that's going to cover a lot of these other areas of stewardship that we have. So how are you stewarding right now? Just an answer to yourself in your own mind and heart. What kind of steward have you been and are you being with everything that God has given to you? And it takes a lot of discernment to know how to use them. And discernment takes a lot of time in prayer and in God's presence and in learning and growing and intentionally becoming the better and best version of who you've been created to be. Okay. And so also under this category, remember, it's all God's anyways. They're all God's donuts. We are just stewards and managers. This is such a foundational understanding of our money and resources and talents. And it takes it out of your heart so that these things don't become an idol. They're just tools to live out God's purpose in your life. Okay, so we can make lots of money. We can become great leaders. We can steward all of these things really well without it ever being an idol in our heart. These things are just catalysts and tools to advance God's kingdom and live out his purpose. And also it just fosters such a mindset of gratitude. And so one little challenge I want you to do is, let me wait on that. I'll give you that challenge in just a minute. Just another thought, you guys, how important it is that we teach our children to have hearts of gratitude and to teach them to be grateful and to foster that grateful heart in our home. They say that millennials, which I fall into that generation and category, millennials have been kind of targeted as being entitled. It's kind of a controversial thing. Because I don't fully agree with that, but millennials have been called entitled, that we just feel entitled to things that maybe we haven't worked for. And so I've always questioned, if millennials are entitled, what's that? What are we setting up for that next generation, for our children and for their future? And so let's look for ways to practically teach our kids gratitude. So that entitlement mentality, if it really does exist amongst millennials, that it stops with that generation and is not just continued. And I'm always practically looking for ways to do this. I love to hear for any of you who are effectively raising children with hearts of gratitude. I love to hear any parenting tips that you have. I look for ways to withhold things from my kids as long and as early as possible. Partly because of the way I was raised. I didn't grow up with a lot of money at all. I don't really like to use the word poor because that's a very relative term, and poor in America is in fact very wealthy in the other parts of the world. And so we just didn't grow up with a lot of money. And I remember my mom, she told me this when I was older, that her friends would always comment on how grateful we were as children. Like, oh my gosh, your kids are so grateful and they're so thankful. And my mom's friends would always comment on that about us. And I didn't know that until later on in life. And my mom kind of joked. She's like, yeah, it's because you guys didn't have anything. And so anything you got, you were just so excited and had hearts of gratitude. And it's just the truth. When you don't have a lot, when you get something, you tend to be more grateful for it. Sometimes I hear people say that they want to make a lot of money with Mary Kay so they can give their kids, anything they want or the life they didn't have. And I just want to maybe challenge that thought, that maybe we don't want to do that for our kids. Maybe we don't want to give them just anything they want or just this dream life. I don't think we do our kids any favors by making life too easy on them. And the beautiful thing about kids, you guys, is that they are so easily satisfied and filled with joy with just the most basic things. I mean, give my kids like a box that my Mary Kay products came in and all the peanuts, and like they'll go to town for hours and have a ball. The kids just they don't know that they need a whole lot. They don't they're easily satisfied, and their little hearts are so ready to choose joy and choose fun and have fun that they don't need all the extra things that sometimes we feel like we need as adults to enjoy our lives. They haven't tasted that yet. They haven't learned that yet. And so let's withhold a little bit from them as long as we can, and let them just be the joyful, satisfied little people that they were made to be. Okay. We have a no tolerance policy for complaining about food in our home. Like, you want to rub me the wrong way, you complain about food. And I do not let my kids complain about food. It reminds me of the Israelites, in the desert, and God delivered them out of slavery. He provides manna for them every day. They are not wanting for the basic necessities because God has provided shelter and food, enough food for every day. And they start complaining, like, we want to go back to Egypt where there was like cucumbers and melons, basically saying like, God, this isn't good enough. I'd rather be back in slavery so I can eat the food that I want to eat. So anyways, we don't complain about food in my house. Okay, so God has not entrusted the resources you possess to someone else. He's given them to you. And remember, you don't own them. You've just been loaned them. You're the manager of what is really something that God owns. And only you are accountable for managing the use of God's resources entrusted to you. So a good question to ask yourself is just open palmed, like, God, what would you have me do with what you've entrusted to me, with the time, the money, the talent, the resources? Like, what would honor you? What would it be? What would it look like for me to walk in obedience? What would good stewardship look like from your perspective and in your eyes? And then just pause and listen. He will answer. He will guide you. He will show you the way. And just open palmed, ask him what stewardship looks like for you. Here's the exercise that I wanted to share with you, is to make a list of anything you possess right now, that you could look at it and say, yeah, that's mine. That's mine. Just anything and everything. My house, my car, my clothes, my time, my money, my marriage, my husband, my kids. Just anything that you feel like you have possession of. Make a list, and then look at that list and really return it in your heart and in your mind. Return that ownership to the rightful owner, which is God, and identify those things as things He's allowing you to manage and steward, but really, like, those things are His. And again, that's just another exercise to pull things out of our heart and put them in their rightful position, and have the right view of the things that God has given to us. When you understand that you own nothing and that all is His, you are more prepared to be an effective steward. Okay, so let's go on to the second one. We need to kind of pick up the pace here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the emotional connection to money. I learned this a lot in Susie Orman's book, The 9 Steps to Financial Freedom. I feel like she covers this really effectively. We all have an emotional connection to money. I didn't really have a real clear awareness of that until I read her book. And most likely it started as a child. And so what were some of your first memories of money that you had as a child? There are questions in your packet that if you haven't had a chance to get to them, even if you don't get the points on the early bird voucher, go to those questions in the packet and spend some time just thinking them through and answering them. You don't turn it into anyone. You don't have to show anyone. It's really just for you to discover any sort of emotional connection to money. And some are going to be healthy connections, and some are not going to be healthy and not going to serve you well, but it's so important to have awareness of those. And so here are some examples, because I almost needed to hear examples when I was reading the book, or the examples helped me so much in understanding what it meant to have an emotional connection to money, or to learn how to treat money from a very young age. So here are some examples. Let's say maybe you have a fight with your mom or your dad, and then either he or she takes you shopping, or maybe out to dinner or something where you go spend money together as a way to kind of mend the relationship, or to say sorry for maybe the fight that you had. And so something you learn from that when you experience that growing up is sometimes we can spend money just for comfort, or we spend money if we feel like we need to mend a relationship. We spend money in an attempt to mend that relationship. Okay, or maybe you had to move a lot when a parent got a promotion, like your dad got a new job or a new promotion where he can make more money, and so you moved a lot as a child, and so maybe you connect money to pain and loss, because, oh, dad's going to make more money, now I have to lose all my friends that I've made. And maybe you connect it to having just a sense of insecurity, and so maybe you avoid managing money because you connect money to pain and loss and discomfort. Okay, that's another example of an emotional connection, or something, or a way you've learned to treat money from experiences in your childhood or youth. Also, our financial lives are very private. You don't go around asking people how much money they make. That would be so socially unacceptable. The question you ask in America is like, oh, what do you do? That's an appropriate question to ask, but you would never at a dinner party ask, well, how much money do you make? That's private. We don't go around talking about how much debt we have. And again, that would never be an appropriate question to ask, or an appropriate conversation to just have at a dinner party. How much debt do you have? Let's talk about it. And so those things are often private. And sometimes when things are private, because it's okay for it to be private, but sometimes it can feel like a secret. And when things feel like a secret, there can be a lot of guilt and shame that comes with that secret. And so I think it's important to talk about it, at least to someone, whether your spouse or a financial advisor. It's important that our financial lives, it's okay for them to be private, but if it moves into the realm of secret where there's guilt or shame, you need to shine some light on that and not keep it in the darkness, but bring it open, shine some light on it, so that you can rid yourself of that guilt and shame, because we're not meant to carry that. The money makeup call. Money wake up call test. That was another test, and it was just a test I found online that I felt like was very comprehensive in the different money topics that it addresses. And so again, if you haven't taken it, you're not going to earn any early bird voucher points for it, but that's okay. Just go through it, because it could spark some awareness of maybe some areas of your financial world that there needs to be growth in. Also, Susie Orman. So we're moving into the third kind of topic or concept. Also, we could spend like an hour. We could spend hours on each of these topics, but we don't have that kind of time. And so this is just a very cursory overview of some of these topics, that whatever sparks something in you or resonates with you, that's a good sign that you need to dig a little bit deeper with that and continue to learn about that area. And so she talks about how focusing on your money and managing your money and giving energy and focus to that is really all about putting people first. That's her whole theme in her 9 steps to financial freedom is people first, especially the people that you love the most. There's this myth that to focus on money means you're greedy or materialistic, especially sometimes in Christian circles. People hesitate to talk about money or want to make a lot of money because it just feels greedy, but that's not necessarily the truth, you guys. We misuse the scripture that says, what does it say? It's escaped me. The love of money. Oh, yeah. The love of money is the root of all evil. And so people have mistakenly made the connection that money is the root of all evil, or the root of evil. And that's not what it says. It says the love of money. And so that implies that money has replaced where God should be reigning on the throne of your heart. And so no, money should not be in your heart, should not be an idol. But that doesn't mean we cannot focus on our money. And that doesn't mean it's bad to want to make a lot of money or to make a lot of money or to even have nice things. None of those things are bad or wrong in and of themselves. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a few seconds. Yes. Okay. So going back to the whole concept that focusing on your money is about putting people first. When you create a more healthy financial life, you guys, it is all a service to God, to your family, to everyone else around you. Think of the service that it offers and really connect it to your Mary Kay business. When we build a business, we are adding value to the lives of a lot of people. The more parties you hold, the more faces you do, you are essentially adding more value. And when you add value, there's just this natural way of being compensated for adding value. So as you build a big customer base, as you build a big team, you're going to be adding value to more people. You're more of a value adder. And as you increase in the value that you're adding, your income naturally increases with that because of the service that you're offering to a lot of people. That's essentially what making a good income in Mary Kay is. You're just being paid for adding value to the lives of other people. And then all of a sudden your family benefits from that. And there's a more stable financial situation and there's less stress about money. And then there's more of a surplus that you can give and create a legacy and create significance, that sixth financial level that we can all grow to. That happens when you're adding value and making more money. And so money in and of itself is amoral. Like there's no morality to it. It's not like good or bad. It's neutral. It's not good or bad in and of itself. Same with material possessions. They're not like good or bad. They don't have any morality to them. It's our relationship with money and with possessions that can can lead to good or evil, depending on how we use it, how we steward it. An emotional connection that I discovered as I read this book, Susie Orman's book, and that just as I have grown in my journey, you guys, here's a connection I made, is that I chose teaching for a variety of reasons to go to school to be a teacher. I got a degree in early childhood education. But one of the reasons that I wasn't aware of at the time, but now I look back and see that motivation there, is I chose teaching because it wasn't a career where you could make a lot of money. I thought there was just something noble about that. I had friends in college who specifically chose careers because of the income that they would generate. And I don't know, that turned me off. Now I look back and think, there ain't nothing wrong with that. But at the time, I thought that there was. And I thought it was more noble to choose something that I knew I would make a low income at. And there was some fear about choosing a career with a higher income because somewhere in my heart, I thought that was bad or wrong. And so when I started making a really great income in Mary Kay, there was some part of my heart, not every part of my heart, but some part of my heart that feared that it was wrong. Now, I got over that pretty quickly. But very early on in my business, there was that kind of question that existed in my heart. And I do believe that wealth has been, especially wealth that comes from a successful business, has been villainized in America. The book Thou Shalt Prosper which is on our book list, he goes into this a lot. And it's actually shocking when he goes through the statistics to all of a sudden become aware of how it really is villainized in our culture. They did a study, and you guys, 74% of Hollywood movies, the villain is a wealthy businessman, which creates the assumption in people that to have a successful business and to be a business owner is somehow connected to greed, or maybe you built the business without integrity, or maybe you took advantage of people to be successful or get where you're at. But really, when you look at it, most people who've created wealth from a business, they have done it from a desire to serve others and add value and add a great product or service. Are there greedy, wealthy people? Sure. Yeah, there always will be. But there's also greedy, poor people too. Like the amount of money you have, it doesn't mean more money, more greed, less money, less greed. It doesn't work like that. You could be dirt poor and on the streets and have a more greedy heart than a wealthy business owner. A greedy heart has nothing to do with the level of income you do or do not make. And so I think I just picked up on that from being in our culture and growing up in this country. And somewhere in my heart, I had villainized a lot of wealth or making a high income, and therefore chose a career that had a low income because I didn't want to be viewed as greedy. Isn't that interesting? Okay. Next topic, you guys, I think we're on number 4, is that ignorance is not bliss. Money will not go away, and money problems will not fix themselves. And so I'm so glad you're a part of this program, so we can all take steps together to move from, maybe if you've been in a place of ignorance or denial, or just kind of pulling the wool over your eyes and wanting to ignore the reality of your financial situation. I hope if for the first time you're opening your eyes and living in black and white numbers and living in the reality of what's actually happening, because until you're willing to live in that reality and not be in denial, like until that happens, you can't move forward. So it's like that's got to happen first. And so if you've been living in the state of ignorance is bliss, and I would rather just ignore it because I don't want to deal with it. Okay, let's pull the wool off of our faces, open our eyes, look around, take an assessment of what's happening in our financial world. Start writing numbers down so you see them in black and white. There's something about ink on paper that takes it from this ambiguous sort of, oh, I hope we're okay financially, to seeing the reality and the number on paper, and then you can deal with it. But when it stays covered up, when it stays hidden, when it stays, when you stay in a state of denial, like money problems don't just magically fix themselves. Dave Ramsey says you can wander into debt, but you don't wander out. It's going to take gazelle-like intensity and focus to get out of it. And then once you're out of debt, the next step is in creating more wealth, in creating more of a surplus, and moving on to security and surplus and significance. And that also takes a lot of gazelle-like intensity, focus, and healthy money habits. So either way, whether you're in debt or not, ignorance is not bliss, and we've got to live. We got to live in reality. So I asked you some questions in the packet of how in touch with your money are you? And it just asks you some questions about some raw numbers. What are your expenses? What does it cost for you to live? What's your amount of debt right now? And if you didn't know, maybe know some of these numbers like pretty quickly, or could at least find them very quickly in some tracking that you have, that could be a sign that there's a little bit of ignorance and unwillingness to live in reality. And so that is the first step. My journey, my financial journey of learning more and growing in this area, you guys, it started with realizing and waking up to the fact that I was ignorant about our financial life and goals. And that I really didn't have any goals and have a lot of clarity about what was happening. So it had to start with that realization that I I needed to take action and stop being okay with not knowing, and stop being okay with not having really clear goals. Okay, so let's talk about investing. This is kind of a fun topic, and hopefully is encouraging to all of you. Okay, saving and investing to $2,000 a year. Okay, so we're going to say investing into an account where there's a return on your money. So let's say $2,000 a year. That's $167 a month. Into an investment with a return of at least 10% over the course of your working life. And the course of your working life, let's just go on average like 20 years old to 60, or somewhere within that time frame. If you do that, $167 a month over your working life, invested into an account that is yielding a 10% return, which it's going to go up and down throughout that time frame, but on average, yielding that 10% return. At the age of 60, you would have an investment fund of $1 million. And so you could become a millionaire by the time you retire by just putting away $167 a month. Doesn't that seem to not add up? Like $167 a month giving you $1 million by the time you retire, it doesn't seem like it would happen. But that's the beauty of compounding interest. And that's the beauty of investing, that when you put, for every dollar you put away, that money is working for you. While you're sleeping, that money is working to produce more. And so where can you find $167 a month? I would bet good money on the fact that all of us could shave off a little here and shave off a little there and eliminate this and eliminate that and make different choices here and there to find an extra $167 without even feeling like we're decreasing our standard of living or having to really live with a high level of discipline. I mean, it could just be from clipping a few more coupons to save a few dollars on your grocery bill. It could be maybe you're in the habit of going out to eat once a week. Well, just do it twice a month. You don't have to eliminate it altogether. Just go a few less times. Or instead of going to like Cheesecake Factory, go to Applebee's. Instead of you each ordering an entree and leaving food on the table, split something. Maybe say no to dessert and drinks afterwards. There's always those little choices that we can make, which it doesn't feel like it's creating a lot in the moment by splitting an entree versus both getting 2 entrees. But you guys, over a lifetime, it's a lot of money, especially when you're investing those extra dollars. Your cable bill, lattes at Starbucks, clothing, hair, nails, accessories, all of it's, remember, it's pre-trash. So where could you shave off a little bit, eliminate a little bit to create that extra $167 a month and invest it? And don't touch it until you retire, because compound interest is considered and called the 8th wonder of the world. You don't have to save $1 million to end up with $1 million. Okay, because that $167 a month, every month over the course of your working life, if you just added that up on the calculator, it doesn't equal $1 million. The reason it grows to $1 million is because of interest and because your money can work for you and your money can make you more money when it's invested. Okay, here's another little example. $4.79 per day. You know, that's the cost of a specialty drink at Starbucks. That extra per day of spending on non-productive purchases results in an overspending of $1,750 per year. Isn't that crazy? Just like an extra $4.79. It's not even a $5 bill. Sometimes that's like change in the bottom of your purse and in your car. Or if you lift up the middle console of your car, you can find that loose change in there. So less than $5 a day over the course of a year equals almost a Sapphire Star order, $1,750. And so if that money, $1,750 per year, were invested over the course of your working life, earning 10% interest compounded annually, such as like a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA, then that $4.79 per day becomes almost $1 million. It becomes $850,000 over the course of a working life when it's invested. And so now think of, so yeah, that's awesome, $850,000. But now think of every day spending that money, on the coffee, on the pack of gum, on the extra drinks at dinner, on the movie, on the cable bill, on the magazine subscription, on the gym membership that you don't go to, on the kids stuff that they don't really need. I mean, the list goes on and on, right? On the extra groceries that sometimes just go bad in your fridge. So think of all that. When we spend those little extra things, it could end up costing us almost $1 million. And none of that stuff is changing our standard of living. It's all just very frivolous spending that we're getting like nothing in return. And so most of us don't think we're frivolous with our money. But I think when you really take a close picture at your transactions and really analyze where you're spending money, I think everyone has areas of luxury where we consume things we don't need, or could just shave a little bit back. I think someone commented in our Facebook group about their nails. They said like, well, instead of getting them done every 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going to stretch it out for I don't know what the amount of time was, but just stretching it out a little bit longer, letting them grow out for a week longer. And so that probably equals, X amount of less manicures per year. That has a dollar amount to it. If that amount is saved and invested, it earns you more money in the future. And so she didn't eliminate manicures. She just shaved a little bit back. So if you're not noticing things you can really eliminate, what could you shave away at to pare it down? Because that also is very, very effective in creating that extra money that you can save and invest. So if you want to start saving and investing, where do you start? I think a Roth IRA is a really great place to start. You can research financial institutions that have a good return on that. The money has already been taxed going in, but it's not going to be taxed when you withdraw it. So it's a great way to invest extra money. So you can take a look at your current financial institution or do some research. Someone can advise you on where to put the investment or where to put the money. So you don't have to be savvy in the stock market. That's like many steps down the road. Maybe we can eventually get there. But right now, if you're just wanting to put money away, don't feel like you have to learn that step before you can start investing. So if you don't have a Roth IRA, that would be an awesome next step. And start with, if there doesn't seem like there's a lot of extra, you guys just start with a small amount. Remember, $4.79 per day adds up over the course of a year, and can eventually, when invested well over a long period of time, $850,000. Okay, when you put it into perspective like that, I mean, it's wild what we can actually save over a period of time without feeling like we're having to use a whole lot of discipline to be able to do it. So let's talk about consumer spending and debt, which is kind of connected to investing. Whenever money is used consumptively, just on consumer spending, like pre-trash stuff we really don't need, things that are a luxury, things that give us no return on the purchase. That money is gone, and it's gone forever and can never be used on anything for the future. Okay, that's just kind of a sobering thought to let it sink in. When you buy something, that money you use, I mean, it's just gone, never to return. versus taking that money, even small amounts, and putting it away. You're going to see it again. And not only are you going to see it again, it's going to grow. You're going to see a lot more of it again. Okay, so the years following World War II have seen such an incredible amount of growth in affluence in our country. I mean, no people ever have possessed the material resources that we do. It's staggering. I mean, we are truly blessed beyond measure. And despite that, there are some significant cracks and instabilities in our economic structure and in our way of thinking. Even among Christian leaders, we are often led to believe that we are owed or have a right to a lifestyle that may be very well beyond what we can afford. Our national debt, so the amount of money owed by our government, is over 18, and I don't even know the word to put after it. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 zeros, 18 something, trillion, billion. If you divided that up by every man, woman, and child in our country, we would all owe $56,000, $56,400. Yeah, staggering. And so we live in a culture where overspending is just completely acceptable, sometimes not even questioned. And some would even argue that it's necessary. Even just think about the situation with student loans and people going to college. People don't blink an eye at, and I think we're starting to wake up to it now because we're seeing the ramifications of what's happening. But for years, people wouldn't blink an eye at taking out $100,000 or going into debt $100,000 to go to college, to go to school. In fact, we think it's necessary for a successful life. It's what people do to have a successful life. And then what we're seeing is people graduating with staggering amounts of debt and no job, or at least not a job that would support that kind of debt. You know, paying mortgages on student loans. And that's become like, okay, that's normal. That's acceptable. It's weird not to. And like, let's really stop and question that. And then when somebody comes into Mary Kay, isn't it funny that they view an $1,800 inventory? Oh, I don't want to take on all that debt. And I'm like, you took on a $100,000 student loan and you don't have a job, but you're not willing to invest $2,000 in a business opportunity that can make you six figures? Like, wait a minute, wait. Like, let me get clear on this. But it's just a way of thinking in our culture. Even cars, guys. Graduating high school, graduating college, going to get a car, and it's totally normal to have a car loan for a nice car, like a nice car with a really high interest rate, paying ridiculous car payments. That's like normal. It's like, okay, it's acceptable. And again, college students or people who graduate don't blink an eye at going to get that car loan, but then hesitate to maybe invest in a business opportunity that can make them money, because you know that car ain't making you any money. It's costing you every single day. But then there's this business opportunity that you have in Mary Kay to generate an income. So I think it's important to like pause sometimes for a moment and like really question why we do the things that we do and how we're influenced by the culture around us, and really analyze like what is serving me well and what is not. There is an opportunity cost to consumption. $1 spent today does not take $1 out of your future. It takes multiple dollars. Let me repeat that. $1 spent today doesn't just take $1 away from your future. It takes several dollars out of your future, because that dollar invested grows where the dollar spent is gone forever. Okay, an average car payment in America is $483. Take that money, take $483 and invest it into a Roth IRA over the course of your working life. Okay, are you ready for this? Are you ready for what it equals? $5.6 million in that account. because of compounding interest. And when you give money time to grow, it starts to, the pace picks up and it starts to be exponential growth. And so $5.6 million, you guys, I hope you really like that car you just got for that $483 car loan, for that really nice car. Thank God we can earn free cars in Mary Kay, right? Some biblical advice about debt, Proverbs 6:5, and Dave Ramsey talks about this. Give no sleep to your eyelids. Okay, don't go to bed. Keep working. Give no sleep to your eyelids. Deliver yourself like a gazelle from the hand of the hunter. You can wander into debt, but you don't wander out of it. And our God is a God of work. We talked about this in the first hangout about how he modeled the work rest cycle, and work was not beneath him. In fact, he reveled in it. It was an expression of who he is as our creator. And he worked and he rested as a way to model the cycle of our lives. There's only one place to go when you're broke, and that's to work. And to become a person of action, not passivity. So there's, of course, two extremes with everything. There's always extremes. And usually, most of the time, you want to avoid extremes. So one extreme is uncontrolled spending. And then another extreme is just a complete unwillingness to spend and kind of becoming a hoarder of money and not enjoying your life or creating enjoyment for other people or provision for other people. And so we want to avoid both of those extremes, because let me just say it, I think it's also okay to enjoy the income that you create and to create memories with your family and to go on vacations, and it's okay to have nice things. All of those things are okay, but there's just an order that they come in, and sometimes we jump to the consumer spending to increase our lifestyle and standard of living before it's time to do that. I think financial freedom really comes from having an open hand with our money and trusting God to direct us in how we use it. And so, you guys, there's a whole nother topic I want to touch on, but I don't want to be rushed with it. And so I'm going to save it for next week because our time is just about there. Okay, so I'm going to invite you, if you have a story to share, you guys, I want to invite you to share it on our Facebook group this week, and invite you to stay plugged in. I know it's easy to start these things, but takes more grit to finish them. So if you've started this, finish it all the way, like all 3 hangouts, the whole workbook, all the vouchers, stay plugged into the Facebook group and finish this journey that you've begun. And if you are feeling overwhelmed or hopeless, you guys, one next step today. It's all you got to do. Identify that one little baby step. That next movement forward. You do not have to figure it all out today. You won't figure it all out today. This is not going to be, there's no overnight quick fix to this kind of thing. We're all on a lifelong journey of mastering this area of our lives. And so if you're overwhelmed or feeling hopeless, don't check out. You guys, it's the worst thing you could do is to check out. Okay, so stay in, lean into the tension. We are comfortable being uncomfortable. Embrace the discomfort and identify one little next baby step that you can take today to move forward. All right, you guys have a blessed week. I'll see you next Tuesday, same time, same place.